Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Stylist Chat. How about
Yes.
that? We'll
I
call it
like it. I
that.
love it.
Healthy Stylist Chat. I am April Cobb, and I am here today with the amazing
Oh,
Takara.
hello,
Nicole.
hello.
I was getting ready to say, wait a minute, I'm making sure I'm on everything. But I was getting ready to say she is a master cosmetologist, certified trichologist, but it's so many things that you are. So I'm going to let you introduce
Oh, good.
yourself because we're just talking about this. You do it all. It's like you're the one with the 10 talents, with the millions that you turn into more millions and more talents. And we all aspire to be like. It's like, where do you get the energy and stuff from? So before I just leave something out, I'm going to let you
Oh
tell the
no.
people. I'm going to let you just slide your resume across the table.
Oh
How about that?
no. Oh my
Yeah, so go on and tell them what all you do, honey. Slide it on over across the table.
Nah, I would just a little bit, not too much. But y'all,
Just a
hello.
little bit.
I just a little bit. Hello, everyone. I'm Takara Nicole, and I am a master cosmetologist. I'm a healthy hair specialist, clinical trichologist, associate trichologist, and I also do a little business coaching, a little hair teaching,
Hmm.
mentoring on the side as well. But I am all things help people. So
Yeah,
I just feel like God gave me the gift to be a resource. So
yeah,
He put it in me to whatever aspect of life, whether it's ministry and hair and business, whatever you want to do. I feel like God, He just put it in me to do. But I am
yeah.
excited about this conversation. I feel like it is long overdue,
Yes,
very, very much so long overdue. So you guys
yes,
are in for a treat tonight because I'm here with my girl, the
yes.
amazing April Cobb.
Listen,
Uh,
I'm just trying to keep up with you. You know, I mean, just a little bit.
just a little
But
bit.
yes, this conversation has been way overdue. We've been talking about it for a long time, and I am super excited to be talking about it with you tonight. All things hair textures, and some of the burning questions that I get asked all the time in the salon. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
And first of all, Takara, I want you to address women who are thinning or having balding issues.
Okay.
Um, just talk a little bit about that as far as what causes it, what can be done about it, what questions stylists should be asking in the salon
Okay.
when it comes to women with these issues.
Awesome. So let's first start. This month is actually Alopecia Awareness Month, y'all. So this conversation I feel like came at the perfect time
Mhm.
because alopecia is on the rise.
Yeah,
I think when the whole issue with Jada happened, I feel like it kind of kicked open the door. But this is something that has been happening for years. People have been struggling with alopecia. And believe it or not, there are so many people that cover it up every single day.
yeah,
So let's first start really like the definition of alopecia is hair loss.
hmm,
I know a lot of times people think that if you're bald completely, that's considered hair loss only. But any type of thinning, shedding excessively, spots or patches is considered alopecia.
hmm,
So when we talk about thinning and thinness, there it could be a number of things that we're dealing with. And I'll just kind of name just a couple. But one of of course, the biggest one that we've dealt with is androgenic alopecia, okay,
hmm,
which is considered female pattern baldness, male pattern baldness, which is probably I would say outside of alopecia areata is probably one of the number one things that we're going to see as far as hair loss. And that is where you see the pattern a lot of times, like the George Jefferson, where people have a
hmm,
lot of the hair on the sides, but
hmm,
they don't have that top part.
yeah,
Okay. But that didn't just happen overnight,
hmm,
right? It started with thinning. And so with men, you'll see where their hairline will start to create almost like a M. right? They'll kind
Mhm.
of lose these edges in the top.
Mhm.
Women will primarily right where your middle part would be. You'll start to see where that will start to kind of spread open a little bit. That is like the beginning stages of the female pattern baldness, male pattern baldness, kind of the androgenic alopecia. So anytime you start to see it
Mhm.
here for women, and then what happens is it just starts to go back towards the crown.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bigger ones I would say, as far as like if you're seeing thinning, that's going to be the number one
Mhm.
that you're going to see, and that is a hormonal type of hair loss.
Mm.
Okay, that's a
So,
hormonal. Go ahead.
we get a lot of people talk about things that happen because of hormones, because of hereditary, because of medicine. What can you say to someone? I guess what would someone need to know or to do to know which one it really is? Does that make sense? If
Right.
it's from where the I guess the origin of this comes from.
Correct. So a lot of times, it would definitely kind of really be through a consultation, because I
Mhm.
will really have to assess like all of the things. But
Mhm.
with the androgenic, which is like the female pattern baldness, male pattern baldness, you're definitely, it is typically hereditary. I'll say this because it is hormonal. I'll say for women, and it's, I can't say for sure. I'll just say for the cases that primarily of the cases I've seen, when
Mhm.
it comes to the hormonal part, you can typically track it back, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So a lot of times, the more hormonal women that have always struggled with the hormones, had hysterectomies at very, very young ages,
Yeah.
typically you can track that back.
Right.
And you can kind of tell, like, okay, my mama had hair loss, my grandmother had hair loss, my grandmother, had hair loss,
Mhm.
or my father and his entire side had hair loss. So
Right.
most of the time, when it comes to that specific kind, you can kind of track it back, but you can also track it too based off of hormones. You can just tell people that are a little bit more hormonal than others. So I have a mother right now that's in the clinic, and so she was like, she's already. And I'll say this, I can almost gauge the age too. So most of
Mhm.
the time for my women that are like about the 42, 45 is where
Mhm.
you're really, really, really kind of notice it.
Right.
It probably already started in your late 30s, early 40s.
Mhm.
By the time you get to 45, I'll say it's more noticeable.
Yeah.
By the time they're hitting their 50s, I'll say that it's way more noticeable, where it's kind of almost kind of gone in certain areas and you have spots. So
Gotcha.
for that type, I'll say definitely it is definitely hereditary, but it's typically hereditary because it's something within the family. So whether it's the
Mhm.
mom or whoever has the hair loss part, typically, and again, hormones too.
Goes along with it. I got you.
Absolutely.
So talk to I've had a couple of clients who have used injections
Okay.
in their hair. What do you suggest, even for me as a stylist, the first thing to suggest? Because most times I will send my clients to a dermatologist or to you to
Okay.
figure out what their issues are. Sometimes and I guess you can answer this too. Is it a temporary alopecia versus a permanent type situation, and how can you tell?
Absolutely. So we can definitely tell there are different types, and I'll kind of name some of like the ones. So alopecia areata is a autoimmune.
Mhm.
So that's the type of alopecia that my daughter has. So that
Mhm.
is the one that pretty much where the body is attacking the hair follicles.
Mhm.
That's where that one is kind of funny because it can come in, it can come out.
Mhm.
It can be more stress induced. It could be also vitamin deficiency induced, different things like that. It would typically come out clean shaven,
Mhm.
but it will grow back.
Okay.
Okay. At
Mhm.
that point, the follicles are not considered dead, they're more dormant. Okay.
Mhm.
And it's due a lot of times to inflammation.
Okay.
So that's one. So that would be, I would say, more of like, if you want to say temporary, kind of sort of.
Mhm. Okay.
The thing is that once the hair starts to come back, I mean, once the hair starts to come out, um, so in our clinicals, we kind of went back and forth kind of with the doctors about how far as scarring alopecia. So scarring alopecia would be considered more of a permanent hair loss. If you go to the doctor and they say your hair is not going to grow back, typically they're saying you have a form of scarring alopecia. The arguments kind of have been how far deep as far as the tissue goes in the layers, is it gonna come back, not come back? Because I've
Mhm.
had at least four of my clients where the doctor said their hair will never grow back,
Mhm.
it's scarring. I've done treatments, the hair came back.
Mm.
So it's kind of hard. That's why for me, sometimes it's kind of hard to gauge. My thing for me, and I'll say, and then I'll go to the next, as far as treatment goes, is I'm always going to gauge coverage as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
So if you have a large gap, there may be some spaces where the follicles are not damaged. There may be some spots that I can bring the follicles back. But my major concern is always going to be, is it still going to be enough
Mhm.
at the same time? So
Mhm.
I'll say
Mhm.
that. But as far as permanent versus um, temporary, when it comes to alopecia, it's always going to be up to the scarring aspect of it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
more like a
If the
case by
follicle is,
case.
it's always a case by case basis.
Mhm.
So we have like traction alopecia would be considered, I would say, a temporary one. So
Mhm.
traction alopecia is where the hair will like from being pulled from braids, weaves, or something tight. Anything tight can do it. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
braids or weaves. It could be a headband that you have on that you're wearing that's too tight. It could be a number of things that is making it come out. So that
Yeah.
could be and then also when it comes to traction, it can lead to
Mhm.
scarring alopecia where it does not return.
Yeah.
So that part is just, it's on a case by case basis. Some
Mhm.
people, they can do a hairstyle and their hair will come back. There are
Mhm.
some people that once they do it, it's wipe their edges out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
have a question. You want to go
I was
into
gonna,
questions now?
yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say because I
Okay,
saw
go ahead.
somebody mention braids and thinning.
Okay.
So welcome everybody who's jumping on right now. Let's see. Good evening. What do you do after seeing a hair technician for 9 months and there was little or no hair growth?
Okay. So it really depends on the type of alopecia you have. And so sometimes, um, we can't promise anything, but I will say this: there may be some that are also not as knowledgeable. I'll say that as it pertains to different types of alopecia. And they may overpromise and underdeliver. And I'm just being honest, because there are sometimes they may assume that it's a one type or it's a different type. And there are some that I would never do any type of treatments on. But then it just kind of really depends. If you want to inbox me, um, Miss Janet, you can inbox me directly, and then I can kind of see what you have going on. I can kind of better answer, because it's just kind of hard to say after 9 months, but it just could be a number of things as to why, and then sometimes again, hair growth, we can do treatments to even to try to get it back in, even the micro channeling and the micro needling and all of that to get it back in. And it still may take a little bit longer for it to even sprout through. Honestly, the best way that I'm ever able to see anything is under the microscope. I can never see anything surface level. So I definitely have to look under the scope to be able to tell what your follicle is actually doing.
Mhm.
Um, can hair that is thinning on the top of the head due to braids usually grow back? It
Mhm.
can usually grow back depending upon how much damage has been done.
Mhm.
I'll say that. Depending upon how much damage has already been done, is there scarring? Is the follicle still there? Is always the question. And then also, you we have to stop doing the hairstyles too. Sometimes that's making it to come out. So sometimes I'll get my people that'll get their hair to grow back in, and then they'll go right back to the hairstyles that took their hair out. So sometimes you got to kind of give it a break or give it up, or maybe like before your hair could handle it,
Mhm.
but now your hair is not able to handle some of the same styles anymore. So that's something that we really have to consider and think about, especially those of you that are graying. I'm sorry, and I'll turn it back over to you. When you're
Mhm.
graying, your follicle is a lot finer. It's a lot weaker. It's not as strong. The melanin is no longer in that hair. And so sometimes the gray hair is a lot more wiry. So what you used to be able to do, you're not quite able to do anymore. So
Yeah.
that's also something that we can consider.
That's a good one too, talking about the gray hair, because they're so unruly. Trust me, I know.
Yes, they are.
And this is my friend Wanda. Hey, Wanda. Wanda says, "Hello. What products would you recommend for low porosity hair to maintain moisture?"
Okay, so when we talk about low porosity, that's one of the a lot of the questions that I get. So I would say it's kind of okay. So it kind of really depends on what we got going on too, right?
Hmm.
So it depends on if there is a lot of damage to the hair shaft, if there has been like color, something that you've done to the hair shaft that kind of has it that way. We'll look at that first, and then we'll also look at what is like the natural texture of your hair. But it kind of you really have to kind of like coat the hair shaft differently. Stay, I would say, more treatments because we got to rebuild that hair shaft. So
Hmm.
more treatments to rebuild the hair shaft, as well as more like oil and conditioner, oil based products to help coat the shaft of the hair. But again, to me, sometimes it's a case by case, just depending upon what you got going on. Because sometimes a lot of that low porosity comes from whether you're coloring your hair and different things like that, too.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a question from a very seasoned stylist. Latika is joining us. And she
Hey.
said, "Hey, Tika." She said, "Could you share with people about medication and how it may contribute to hair loss or thinning, i.e., blood pressure medication, etc.?"
Okay, this is a really, really good question, one that I love to answer. So, medication does definitely contribute to hair loss. Okay. And so I'll say it like this: when it comes to different medications, it is the medication, but it's actually what the medication does to your body. Okay. So we're gonna dive into this a little bit. I know we got a couple questions.
Hmm.
And we'll dive into this a little bit later. But one of the major aspects um of our hair growth is our nutrients in the body. Okay. And so a lot of times these medications, what they're doing is they are depleting you. This is why one of the number one things on a lot of medications that you will see will be hair loss. And it's because what the medication it does to your body. So a lot of times you got to kind of be able to gauge what is it depleting you. But a lot of times you're not eating right. You're not eating healthy. You're not taking your supplements and your vitamins. So if this medication is depleting your vitamin K, is depleting your vitamin D, you're going to have to supplement for what's coming out of your body. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times that's a lot of what we're seeing. It's what the medication is doing on the inside of you is actually what's causing your hair to come out.
That's a good one. We get a lot of that in the salons. We that's one of the main questions that we ask our
Yeah.
clients right up front, like what medications are you taking? And sometimes I don't know if you experience this on your end, but they're a little hesitant to share that type of information with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that usually is what we see a lot of, especially in African American women with
And
blood pressure and all that good stuff. Hmm.
absolutely. And let me say this too. Additional to that, this is why you have to be honest. I actually just went over to another salon the other day, and and I was talking to the owner, and we were talking about the effects of these new medications, y'all. And I'm gonna go here. Please share this live with y'all friends that are taking Ozempic, that are
Mm-hmm.
taking seglumitide, that are taking a lot of these weight loss medications. Because the reality is that it's that medication, what it does to the body, it slows down. And I'm no scientist, I've just done a little bit of research,
Mm-hmm.
but it slows down your digestion, which means then you're not getting the nutrients that you need. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, a bigger issue is that they suppress your appetite, which means you're not eating. And so I'm seeing an influx of people that are losing their hair due to these shots. So I think, you really have to be careful and be very mindful. Sometimes you got to make that decision and make that choice. Um, like which one you want to do. I'm trying to lose weight, but it's definitely a possibility that you're going to lose your hair. It works very similar to the weight loss surgery. A lot of people that are, doing the weight loss surgery, they lose their hair. Why do they lose their hair? Because their body cannot absorb the nutrients like it could before, or they're not even getting the nutrients like they were getting before. So hair growth, it does not start in products. It starts in the gut.
Mm. Let's
Hair
go there then.
hair
Let's go
growth
there.
does not start in it does not start with products. I don't care how
Hmm.
many products you get. If your gut health is not right, your hair is not going to be right. Um did you notice that some people who dealt with COVID had problems with hair growth afterwards? Absolutely.
Hmm.
That is one of the biggest, that's one of the biggest ones, is COVID hair loss, y'all. COVID hair
Mm.
loss is a big one, as well as people that have experienced hair loss due to the vaccine as
Mm.
well. Again, it's what it does to the body. COVID does a number on you. It depletes you so bad, which is why they tell you when you have COVID, do what? Take vitamin D, take vitamin C, take a lot of supplements. They're telling you to make sure that you're taking a lot of supplements because of the fact that COVID wrecks your body. It depletes you
Mhm.
so bad. And so that's why a lot of people seen hair loss afterwards. I even seen hair loss after
Mhm.
COVID, because of the fact that I had COVID so bad. I couldn't
Mhm.
eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do anything for almost 2 weeks. So
Mhm.
my body was depleted so bad. And so again, it starts in the gut. It just rocks your body. And the same thing with the vaccine. I mean, the vaccine is pretty much they're giving you
COVID.
COVID, and you
Mhm.
may not have it as bad, but the reality is you're still kind of getting it. And it again, what does it do to the body? It's going to
Mhm.
do the medications is going to do something to you to give it to you so that you don't get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the bigger ones. I'm
One
gonna go to
before
the
that
gut.
one though. One is what moisturizer can I use for gray hair?
Gray hair. Okay. So a lot of times the gray hair seems to be finer. So I would definitely recommend more of like volumizing shampoos and conditioners. That's gonna give it more volume and more plump. And of course, moisture is gonna help too if you can find like the moisture ones, but definitely ones that's gonna give it a lot more volume. It's gonna be a lot more finer, so it's not gonna take much to really moisturize gray hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Tika's also mentioned stress. We also see a lot of balding spots and stuff like that behind stress. I've had that happen quite a few times with clients,
Yeah.
and it's they're going through. I mean, we're all going through something, and it's pretty hard. But I think that goes along with trying to be better with your nutrition.
Yeah.
That's just an overall health thing with the stress. But yeah, they don't want to talk about that either. But
No.
it
And
plays a big
stress,
role.
it does. Stress induced alopecia is a larger one. A lot of times people go through really traumatic situations and they may lose like the middle of their hair. They may lose like the little patch in the back.
Hmm.
All of those factors in. And because so I'll say so stress, what stress does is puts creates inflammation in the body.
Hmm.
Again, inflammation is going to be the biggest culprit.
Yeah.
Okay. When we're looking at anything that's happening with the body, but specifically on the scalp, you have to keep that inflammation down.
Hmm.
Um, who's the best professional to go to correct hair diagnosis? Have gone to the primary physician and several dermatologists, but they seem to guess at what's happening. So I'm never going to deter anybody to go to the doctor, right? You got to go to the doctor. You got to go to the dermatologist. You can go to them. But I'm going to be honest, a lot of times a trustworthy trichologist is going to be the way to go. And the reason why is because they're not in the hair, they're more medication driven versus I see this every day.
Hmm.
I cannot speak for all trichologists, and there are some that are not good. It's with any field, right? There's some doctors that are not good,
Right.
but there are really some good, solid trichologists out there that have really studied their field. So I would say go to the doctor, go to a dermatologist first, of course, but definitely go to to a trichologist. Like I've been in the hair industry for 21 years. I've been around here. I've seen pretty much every type of hair loss possible, or even been around hair, period, for 21 years. And so a doctor trying to say, oh, this, well, I've been looking at your hair and I can almost gauge and tell, what's happening. I know it's tough because a lot of times their go-to is always going to be traction alopecia. I'll be honest. For us African American people, they're always going to say, "Oh, you're wearing too tight styles and you've been pulling in and braiding your hair." But that's not always the case,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it is sometimes, but there
Mm-hmm.
are sometimes real things going on. But let me tell you guys something. The root of all of it is your health.
Yeah.
When it comes down to our hormones, when it comes down to medications, people don't understand how much high blood pressure affects your hair, right? The constriction of the valves, your blood not flowing the way that it needs to flow. Okay, then how's the blood going to get to nutrients to your scalp, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about asthma, oxygen, you can't breathe. How is the oxygen going to flow the way it needs to flow through the blood in order for it to give your scalp what it needs? When we talk about um gut health, right? And I'm going to answer that question right now. When we talk about gut health, like what we're eating, so if you're not eating properly, you're not getting the proper nutrients, then how can your scalp get the proper nutrients? And so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times what happens is you eat something, right? And you may go out and you're eating, things you don't really need to eat. Well, your body is not getting what it needs. Then your hair doesn't get what it needs. So your body is always going to take care of the organs first and the hairs last.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're eating something, of course, it's going to make sure inside, but your hair is going to be the last thing, which is why a lot of people hair loss is always the biggest culprit of everything is your hair because it's the last thing. So your gut is so important because what we don't realize is eating a lot of bad carbs all the time is killing the good bacteria in your gut,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn creates inflammation in the body. That inflammation shows up everywhere, including on your scalp.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when we're looking at a lot of these even scalp issues, it comes from the gut. What are you eating? I had a client that came in and she has, an autoimmune type, which is like the psoriasis. But again, it's also that. So the culprit for psoriasis, a lot of times is stress, but it's autoimmune. But there also can be triggers. So she came in and she was having a really bad flare up, and I'm like, "What are you doing different that you have not done? Because I've never seen your scalp." And something simple as, this is why I tell my clients to journal, is chamomile tea.
Mm-hmm.
She was drinking chamomile tea and didn't realize that that was a trigger, and it ended up having a flare up. Now on the flip end, I had a client that came in and she had a lot of scalp, all the things. I'm like, "Girl, what was you doing? Like, what's happening?" She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I went away last weekend." She said, "And I was eating, catch this, I had macaroni and cheese, I had ice cream." She had dairy. Dairy creates inflammation. And what did it do? It showed up on the scalp. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times when we're dealing with scalp issues, a lot of times I'm dealing with a gut issue.
Mm.
Yep.
That's good.
Go ahead.
That's good because a lot of people are having scalp issues, and then when it comes to dandruff,
Yes.
big flakes versus small flakes versus stuck to the scalp flakes.
Yes.
When is it alarming? And when should it be taken to you, dermatologist, or something off the shelf to help it?
Yes. So please always go see a trichologist or see a doctor before you start using a lot of over the counter stuff. I'm going to be honest. So, because there's a difference between dry scalp, there's a difference between dandruff, there's a difference between cerebric dermatitis. All of those are very, very different. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I've had people in the past that might have thought like, "Oh, I got dry scalp," right? If your scalp is dry, you don't want to make it drier, But what happens is you'll use like the Head and Shoulders and all of these different things over the counter, but your scalp is just dry. It just needs to be moisturized. But when
Mm-hmm.
you use those, you dry it out even more. And a lot of times what people don't realize, not to go too deep because y'all gotta come to the boot camp, but
Mm-hmm.
it will mess with the mantle of your scalp.
Mm-hmm.
So then your body feels like it has to almost create more, right? Because it feels like it's not going to get enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have the issue of like the excessive, or it doesn't matter how much I've shampooed your scalp. Now the mantle of your scalp is messed with, and now we
Mm-hmm.
got to get it back right.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that part on that. So when it comes to dandruff, dandruff is actually more of like a fungal. Um, it'll stink. It's green. It can be different. That's definitely alarming. You definitely want to go to the doctor and let them
Mm-hmm.
get that checked out. But just being mindful of using a lot of the over the counter unless you really, really know, like, okay, it's like something fungal or like a psoriasis, because then we know that's the only way it's going to kind of get up. But be
Right.
careful even using those. And make sure you follow up. Even if you have a dermatologist prescribe you their shampoo, which is fine, follow up with a moisturizing shampoo, because those will actually dry out your hair as
Mm-hmm.
well. So they'll even tell you, okay, you can follow up. Now you got to be careful with what you follow up with,
Right.
because you don't want to follow up with something that may have a preservative or something you're allergic to, that may
Mm-hmm.
cause even more scalp irritation. So I know it's a little deep. It seems like it's a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're not able to come to the boot camp, I do also have an ebook as well, that you guys can grab, and it's super in depth. It will tell you like what to use, what not to use, because I can't talk about it all tonight,
Mm-hmm.
because it really is so much. When I told you this conversation is long overdue,
Yeah.
because the hair, like, I know people think like what we do. I get some people, it's funny, and they're just like, well, then you charge, da, da, da. And I'm like, yeah, because I had to learn, like I had to
Yeah.
educate myself about this.
Yeah.
It is a lot. Like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, it really is a lot when it comes down to like choosing the right hair products. And so, like in the ebook, I just kind of break it down. Like, when you go in the store, this is what to look for. This is what you should buy. Don't buy. Look for
Mm-hmm.
this. Look for these type of products. And I'll say this, and I'll let you,
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest things is too is being careful of um over the like getting things out of a store. I think we kind of talked about the me you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Getting things out of a store, because sometimes the products have preservatives in them. I'm learning now that some of what we're seeing is not necessarily dandruff, it's actually more of a dermatitis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of my clients or people period now are noticing that whatever they're putting to preserve these products, so the preservatives help for it to have a longer shelf life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so whatever they're putting in it to make it last longer, so it can stay on the shelf longer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the longer it does that, the more all natural nutrients it takes out of the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at this bottle and you're like, oh, it has all of these different things in it, they only have to put just a little bit in there to even say that this bottle has what it has in it. I'm gonna be
Right.
honest. And
Right.
so what happens is the whatever they're putting in it to make that shelf life last longer for this product, a lot of times it's creating almost a inflammation and a allergic reaction on the scalp. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's sometimes what people will see as well.
Got you.
Okay.
So I
Yep.
just want to pause real quick
Yes.
because you mentioned the boot camp, and I want you to just speak about the boot camp and what's going to happen. And also, if you could drop it in the chat for everybody, the where they can register for the boot camp and where
Okay.
they can get your ebook. Um, really quickly. Um, and I do see a couple of other questions in
Okay.
the chat. So
I
I know
got
I just gave you
y'all.
a bunch of stuff to do all at one
It's
time.
okay. I'm gonna answer all the questions, and I'm gonna try to multitask the best way I can.
She's good.
Yeah, so the boot camp is next Saturday. It's from 9:30 to 3. It's going to be here in Richmond Hill, and it's going to be just a more in depth of kind of what we're talking about right now. I'm noticing an influx of even our babies and our children suffering with hair loss, and the reality is people just don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to do my part. I have other instructors that'll be with me as well, and we're just going to talk about all things hair. That will be asked questions. We're going to talk about hair types. We're going to do a couple scalp demonstrations, and for people to be able to see like what healthy follicles look like, what they don't look like, just so that people can get an idea and see. But the second half of this is going to be really amazing because we're going to do hands-on, and so we're going to show you how to detangle, how to braid, how to twist, how to do simple styles, how to avoid breakage. I'll tell you guys, this actually was something that was birthed from me being in I'm in a area that is super diverse. A lot of Caucasians and biracials live where my salon is. So a lot of times I get an influx of foster care parents, believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
that come in and they're trying to figure out what to do with these babies that they get in their care. And so this is really where the boot camp kind of originated, where I was just like, I want to be able to help foster care parents be able to, when you get a child in your care, you're confident enough to say, you know what? I can handle this. I can do this. And so that was the point of me really starting it out. But of course, this is a wide range of
Yeah.
all the things. So that's pretty much the boot camp. The link is actually in the pin post. So you guys can go to the pin post. I just dropped the link to the ebook if you guys want to grab that. And I'm going to answer y'all questions anyway, even though y'all online. But I do offer one-on-ones. I do offer Zoom consultations, hair assessments. If you just need help, whatever, I do offer those as well. Because my biggest thing is I'm just trying to avoid the hair loss part. I love, of course, I love what I do. And I got into doing trichology because I kept coming into contact with things I did not know what I was looking at. I
Yeah.
was that stylist, where I'm like, what kind of hair loss is this? Or I assumed it was this type of hair loss. And I'm like, well, what kind of hair loss is this? What am I looking at? And I am a person that I like to solve the problem. So when I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't solve the problem, I was like, I need more education. So I did one class. That class was like $4,000. I did another class that
Woo.
was like $4,000. Did another class and that was like $6,000. And so what I actually did was I took it a step further, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I learned all of this, I took it a step further and I said, you know what? I got to know about the gut health too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I became a holistic practitioner as well.
Yeah.
And so I have spent well over $30,000 in my education, so that I can help people. And so my biggest thing is I'm trying to avoid seeing so many people with hair loss because the reality is that it's devastating.
Yeah.
If you guys could really see the amount of people that I get that cry in my chair, um, I could cry right now. Like it is devastating.
Yeah.
I've had people that fell into my arms, and I've had to tell people that your hair is not going to grow back. There's nothing I can do for you. And I think those are the words that is probably the biggest gut punch ever
Yeah.
is telling someone, hey, there's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm like, what can I do?
Yeah.
I had to ask God, what can I do to
Yeah.
try my hardest to avoid people from getting to this point? And I got to put it in the kids. I can't just put it in you guys, but we also got to put it in these babies
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones that's going to grow up. And I'm seeing now where they're looking at YouTube and they're looking at TikTok. And, I got these little babies coming in. They're like, well, I was on, TikTok and TikTok told me to put this on my hair and then put that on my hair. And then they're doing it. And then now I'm like, no, I've had, the mom that brought the child in and your child's hair is matted, you
Oh.
know, and it's been matted for 5 months.
Wow.
It took me 3.5 hours to just detangle, not to do. It
Right.
took me 3.5 hours just to detangle. So this is a problem. And so as
Yeah.
much as whatever I can do to help avoid this problem. But okay,
Yeah.
so the dermatologists always say that the relaxer are chemical when it comes to us. Absolutely, they do. That's another one. They say it's the relaxers, the chemicals. Thank you, T. She said the trichologist is the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
How do you relieve inflammation? Okay, so there's a couple things. Definitely your diet, number one. Your
Mm-hmm.
diet is going to be the biggest thing. So, eating a high inflammatory diet. I also have some of those things inside my ebook. And if you just text me, I'll shoot you over a page. I don't even care at this point. Of foods that help with inflammation. We already know about the ginger, the turmeric, and all those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things that kind of help. But definitely sticking to more anti-inflammatory diet. Also increasing the fiber in your diet as well. Um, is really, really big. Staying away from the sugars, carbs, white breads, rice, All of those things create inflammation in the body. Dairy products create inflammation in the body. So the best way is through your diet. So it's as clean as you can eat as possible. I tell my clients you're not gonna be perfect,
Right.
but definitely try to eat as clean as possible.
What
You can probably
about
help. Go ahead.
what? Well, before we get to the next question, what about caffeine, um, monster drinks, those energy drinks, and coffees and sodas and stuff? Because I notice for a lot of my clients who come in, and of course their scalps are dry, and for the most part, as stylists, and you and Tika can attest, once we have clients that we have all the time, we pretty much can tell what's going on with their scalps. And I can tell when my clients have not been drinking their water.
Yeah.
Um, that those monster drinks, the coffee or the sodas and stuff, their scalp is just crazy acting. So why is that?
So for sure, we already know that those sodas and um it's nothing but sugar, and so we know sugar as it converts, and so that creates nothing but inflammation in the body. If you're gonna drink or caffeine, they say okay, you can drink it black, which is fine, but of course caffeine, what it does is speeds up, you know your heart rate and all those kind of things. So you just want to use that as a minimum, as
Hmm.
far as caffeine. Try to do as much of the decaf as possible. But I will say the sodas, please stay away from the sodas. The sodas, the sugar is just gonna mess with your gut. Look at it. That's 35 grams of sugar. Like when you look at how much sugar you're supposed to have in a day, most of us
Hmm.
in one can of soda have consumed our max amount. And so a lot of times what happens is that you may drink it and your body can only take in but so much at one time. So whatever your body does not digest, guess what happens?
Hmm.
It just stays stuck in the body.
Right.
So you want to be very, very careful. A lot of those sodas, I tell people too, like don't do the what's it called? The diet. Don't do diet. If you're gonna do
Hmm.
any type, I would say do zero sugar anything. Versus doing like the diet type products. If you're gonna do something, do aim towards ones that say zero sugar on them.
And I just say drink the water. I mean, if it's no
Amen.
sugar in
I
it, then
say
what's
that
the
too.
point?
Drink the water. You can also juice.
Yeah.
Juicing is perfectly fine. You just can't
Hmm.
add all the things into the juice, right? So,
Hmm.
but you juicing is fine. The beet juice is amazing. You can do like the celery and the apple. All those kind of things. Like that's okay to do too. Like all natural, right? But you
Hmm.
still got to be careful because that's a lot of sugar as well. But I know a lot of
Hmm.
people have seen amazing results on just juicing.
Yeah.
So I would rather you just juice or just do water. But I tell anybody this, let me tell you this, everything in moderation, right? Everything. It would be very crazy of me to say that you're going to do everything perfect at one time. Most of my clients that are even on hair loss plans, you have to sign something so like they know that they have to eat right. My clients, they
Hmm.
have my fitness pal, and if I needed to, I can look at their my fitness pal and be like, okay, what you been eating? Let me journal. Let me see what you got going
Hmm.
on. But many of my clients they do well. Right. And so I've had clients that now offer medications. They no longer take diabetic medications. I got my clients now, they're losing weight. So I'm treating their hair, but we're also talking about I can't treat your hair and I'm trying to bring your hair back in, but then you're eating bad and creating inflammation in the body. You're going to
Hmm.
counteract everything that I'm doing.
Right.
So even if you're on a hair loss plan, I mean, a hair restoration plan, you still got to make sure that you're eating right because all of that makes sense. All of it counts.
Gotcha. So we have somebody asking what are good products to use on locks. And so for me, it's basically the same thing. What I use all one brand products for the most part. I've narrowed them all down. I use Nairobi and Congo in my salon. Starting off with the detox shampoo. You want to make sure that when you're shampooing your locks, one of the things that I do for my clients is I'm assessing your hair when you first lean back. After that, I'm rinsing. I'm rinsing and squeezing for a long time. Some of my clients will feel me doing that. That I will rinse out until the water is clear to get a lot of the debris out. Then I go in with the detox shampoo From there, it could be um, a therapeutic shampoo, depending on what's going on with your scalp that day, or I'll go right into with the hydrating shampoo. So you definitely want to at least have the detox and the hydrating shampoos starting off with. To retwist, I use a product called Lot Concoction. I have not had anybody have any issues with it except for one client who was allergic to nuts, or yeah, nuts. And I
Yeah.
think it has some seeds and stuff in it. But that is a good product. You don't need a lot. The product does the work for you. A lot of the products that's on the shelf right now, I've used, and a lot of them will leave buildup, flakes, dry a certain way. So I really, really love this product that I use, and all of these products I do sell in my salon. After the retwist and it's dry and all of those things, you want to definitely use an oil right onto your scalp. You want to use something, and I like to use argan oil on the actual locks. And I use leave-in conditioners, the spray. Sometimes the cream ones will not rinse out as well if you're not taking your time to actually rinse and squeeze out.
Okay.
But make sure you definitely have those two types of shampoos, maybe three if you need a therapeutic in between. Something that you twist with that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. Definitely nothing wax based, no beeswax or anything like that.
That's good.
And then definitely some type of oils to put back into your locks and into your scalp that you maintain with. And lastly, making sure that you tie your hair up every night with something satin that helps with keep your retwist in place and keep your edges from rubbing up and losing moisture and starting to pull and shed. Um, and pretty much, yeah, that's it.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was
And
a good
so,
point you said about the wax and being mindful of that. Because
mm-hmm.
the thing is that, a lot of times we grew up, doing a lot
Grease
of different things.
with
Yeah,
grease.
with that grease. And one time she's like, I'm just gonna go back to that. And I'm just like, you do realize that it's a little thick. So
Yeah.
anything that you're using on your scalp, not your hair, because
Mm-hmm.
let's we go in depth about that. I'm gonna just say it real quick. What you use on your scalp and your hair is two different things. Your scalp to
Mm-hmm.
penetrate your scalp is different than what you would use to penetrate your the hair shaft. So,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're using on your scalp, you want to make sure that it dissolves within the first 3 to 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So oils and stuff that you're using, I know a lot of times, I'm just gonna say this, people might not like it, but I'm gonna go there anyway, and it is
Mm-hmm.
what it is. But I see a lot about, and let's talk about hair growth oils, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of hair growth oils around here. I make them, right? A
Mm-hmm.
whole lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I could be a little biased, but I know mine is the best. But it's okay. A lot of them. But this is what I'll say, right? If the oil is not fine enough, thin enough to penetrate whatever they say is on that bottle, it's not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll say this: when you see the pictures where they cut the hair off and the hair
Mm-hmm.
goes back, if you cut your hair and you don't have any underlying issues, if you don't have any problems, your hair is naturally going to come back.
Say that again, please.
If you cut your hair off,
Mm-hmm.
right, your hair will come back. If you don't have any internal issues or no problems, I mean, even without the hair growth oil, your hair is gonna come back. Which is why I've never done like a promo to show you guys, like, let me cut all my hair off and it come back in. Now I've showed you my clients that have had inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was red and gone, and within 3 months, their scalp is completely cleared up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what's in the bottle is actually able to do what it needs to do because the oil is actually fine enough to penetrate and do. So a lot of times I've heard people say, like, my edges came out and I used Jamaican castor oil. Now listen, I when I first started learning, I ain't know either. So I ain't gonna say I've known this all my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you this. If you've had like traction, your hair is gonna come back, in a sense because it just came out because your braids came out. If you're coating it, keeping it moisturized, it's gonna come back in. It's gonna grow.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to talk about a real hair growth oil that works, show me one where someone does not have hair or has a
Mm-hmm.
scalp condition, and let me see their hair come back in. Because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that if you cut your hair off, it's gonna grow. It'll grow without the oil. If I'm honest, it will. The oil may help it to grow, but a lot of times people ask me like, does your oil work, right? So I have to ask them a little series of questions like, well, what do you have going on? Because based on what you have going on, I'm going to tell you whether for your specific condition, whether it will help or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest now, great moisturizer. There has amazing hair growth properties. I have three different ones. So I got one that helps with scalp conditions that is herb infused. And the last one I just created, which is done really, really well, actually has DHT blockers in it. So for people that are struggling with androgenic alopecia, um, which is the hormonal female pattern baldness, especially if they're like in those beginning stages or whatever, they're coupling that with a DHT blocker supplement. My clients have done really well
Mm-hmm.
on this follicle booster, and it has a lot of hair growth. But again, it just depends on what the client got going on too. That also dictates what that hair growth looks like.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah,
Keeping the hair moisturized and sometimes I want to go out on a limb and say what you just said because
right.
I actually don't put anything in my hair.
Okay.
And when I tell people that, they're like, nothing. I'm like, no. Once I wash my hair and retwist it, very rare. I think if I put something in my hair, it probably would do something crazy.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like if your hair is healthy, your scalp is healthy, your hair will do what it needs to do. Now, I'm not saying don't use products. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Everybody is different. Just like my lock clients, I may service 25 lot clients. They're all different. Even if
Yeah.
the hair texture may be similar, everybody will do something different. So I'm not saying that at all. But sometimes I do feel like we do too much
Yeah.
to our hair when it's not necessarily
Oh, that's what we had to
necessary.
talk about. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to talk about this really quickly. We about to go because we've been on here
Yeah, yeah,
longer
yeah,
than what we
yeah.
said we was gonna be on here.
Hmm.
But let me tell y'all, let's talk about this really quickly. Okay, I got to tell y'all something. Your hair does not grow because it's dirty. I know. I know some of y'all just
Especially a lot of
it
people.
just it just
Especially a
it
lot of
just was a
people.
gut punch. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
did
yeah,
she really
yeah,
just say
yeah,
that? No.
yeah, yeah.
Just
It's
your hair is not growing
yeah,
because it's dirty.
yeah.
Your hair, however, will grow if it's not manipulated as much. Less manipulation. You always in hair, you always doing something, you always combing and brushing because the reality is people are just saying, like, I don't do nothing to my hair. How do I have split ends? Because natural wear and tear creates splits.
Mm-hmm.
Brushing your hair, combing your hair. For those of my natural girls that like to wear the big puffs all the time, well, listen, when you go to detangle that big puff, natural wear and tear, you can mess with the shaft of the hair. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you do need a trim. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that's the new thing now, where it's like, you don't need trims or, I only trim my hair ever so, once a year,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you need to
No.
definitely trim your hair way more than once a year.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is no, if your hair is not manipulated as much, then you will see hair growth. But no, your
Mm-hmm.
hair is not growing in dirt. Like you just got
Mm-hmm.
to think about a foundation of something. Like the more cleaner the foundation is, the more whatever you're using. So some of you, like you're using oils, but your scalp is dirty. It's not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to coat it really nicely,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not actually going to penetrate and do anything.
Yeah, you definitely said something with that because we also get the as stylist, she cut my hair, not trimmed it, not realizing what we actually see if you're not getting it trimmed on a regular.
Right.
Yeah, you need a cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the split ends are so bad that in order to get it all off in one, you know, deal, we have to basically cut. And then two, I know I was guilty in the beginning when I started doing locks. I would do a dry shampoo and cleaned the scalp, I thought real good and all that stuff. And man, those people's scalps was on fire. I was like, this cannot be life. So I
Yeah.
started shampooing, and of course, the locks
Because
are
let me
gone.
say this, like really quickly, like because when
Mm,
the scalp is, and we've encountered a client, like when your scalp has a lot of buildup, what happens is it can actually cause hair loss.
mhm,
And so if your scalp has like, we had a client, it was a lot of buildup. Well, when we
mhm,
were trying to maneuver that buildup on her
mhm,
scalp, we
mhm,
realized that it was actually pulling her hair out because the
mm,
plaque of it, the weight of how big and the coverage of it, it was actually like even blocking from anything getting in there anyway. So
yeah.
this is why cleaning your scalp is so important because a lot of times those follicles and stuff when they're blocked, when it's a lot of buildup on your scalp, clogging. Thank you.
Mhm,
When it's clogging up, well, she was saying something else, but correct. When it's clogging up the scalp and the pores, it can't get anything can't get into it. So this is why it's very important. This is why I also treat people not just to have people that have like spots, but people that also have scalp conditions because a lot of times scalp conditions also lead to very severe hair loss
mm,
because a lot of times when you're not shampooing properly or even when you're having those patches and things that are on the scalp, it's actually pulling the hair out. So
mhm,
that's why you have to be, really shampoo more often. If you have psoriasis and cerebral dermatitis and all of those things, you need to
mhm,
be shampooing your hair at least once a week.
yeah.
And I know they're like, oh, no, you're not supposed to, especially if you're African American, you cannot shampoo your hair. No, yes,
Mhm,
you can. You can
mhm,
shampoo your hair every week. As long as you're
mhm.
following up with moisturizing conditioners and shampoos, it is perfectly fine for you to shampoo your hair once a week. I'm gonna say
Mhm.
it. I don't care who want to combat it, but I'm telling you, it is perfectly fine. And especially for my people that have scalp conditions, you want to get that stuff up off your scalp.
Gotcha. One last question, and then we're going to close. How often
Okay.
should you get a trim?
So everybody is definitely different. So my minimum for my clients is typically once a quarter. So pretty much like every 3 months. Those are for my natural girls that really don't typically wear their hair out pressed or whatever. Typically wearing braids or natural styles throughout the year. That's the minimum for
Mm-hmm.
them. Now, sometimes it could be a little bit more often. Sometimes it could be every 8 weeks. It depends on the client. It depends on how often you're manipulating your hair, combing and brushing as well. Because again, it's that normal wear and tear. So I would say at least every 8 weeks, excuse me, at least every 8 weeks, you should be getting a trim. But for my clients, majority of them are on regimen, so at least once a quarter, and I start them towards the winter months so that the summer months they're off.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, this has been so
yeah,
good, like so full. I feel like it's so much more that is going to pop off at this boot camp. I feel
it is.
like it's just going to be one
It,
that everybody really needs to be in at
yeah,
this boot camp. So I just want to invite everybody right now to click on this link and register for the boot camp on next Saturday from 9:30 to 3 right here in Richmond Hill. And if you can't make it, please go get the ebook. It explains so much. And
yeah.
if you need more help, if you just want a one-on-one, how can they get in touch with you, Takara?
Okay, if you just go to my website, Restored Crown Clinic. I'll put the link at the bottom, so you guys can go to restoredcrownclinic.com, and you guys can just send me a note, send me a message, and just let me know that that you are watching, and then what I can do is get you set up and just see. Um, April, can you put the link on your side?
Mm-hmm.
Because I put it on my side, but she
Gotcha.
says she don't see it, but it's on your side.
Okay. Restored
Yeah,
Crown Clinic.
restore. Yep. .com. I sent it to your phone too. I don't know if you have it.
Oh, yep,
Uh,
I did.
Yep. So
Restored.
that's the link. Um, Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's a Sunday evening. You guys could be doing anything, but thank you guys for asking your questions. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. This is, of course, another one of my babies. So any way that I can Listen, it's one of my babies, whatever way I can help, because I know that this is a topic that so many of us are struggling with. And, we'll kind of end it with this because our crown, like it, it's important to us. And I'll tell you
Mhm.
this, it's just as important to us women as it is to men, believe it or not. It's
Mhm.
just as important to us men, I mean, to women, as it is to the men. Men, when it's not right, all the things, please come on, come sit in my chair.
Yes, that
I
is
would
my sister
love
from
to.
church. So
Oh
yeah,
yes, I would love
yeah,
to help
we
you.
were just
Please
talking
come.
about it today. Yeah.
Yes, please. But men struggle too, and men are not as vocal. Men, if you are watching, wives, send this to y'all husbands.
Mm-hmm.
This, I'm very private. I do, like I said, I do video consultations. Men sometimes are super skeptical because they don't want to come in the shop, so
Mm-hmm.
I do special appointments, to where it can be super private as well. But this is a topic that men don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of men that are suffering with hair loss, and it's just as detrimental to their confidence as it is to ours. And I've been wanting to, hit that with our men.
Mm-hmm.
But men, let me tell you this, men, you got to eat right. I'm gonna talk to y'all before I go. Y'all share this with some men. They need this. Okay. I'm gonna have to copy this little part and send it out. But let me tell you guys, men, the biggest thing is you got to eat right, right? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times what I find with men is they feel like they can work out and eat whatever they want. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And so they're taking these supplements, they're taking the creatine, and they're taking all these different things to do things with their body. But what they're not doing is eating properly. So
Mm-hmm.
you still got to get that nutrients, just like I'm saying with as far as hair, period. You got to have that nutrients. Men, go get your hormones checked. Okay. A lot of men don't realize that as it pertains to, like, I had one gentleman that came, he was dealing with hair loss, and in my consultation, I was telling him to be very, very honest. Well, it might have been like maybe like the second appointment, maybe, or maybe it was in the first one
Mm-hmm.
towards the end. However the case may be, I started talking about testosterone. And I was just like, just like ladies, if you're on the hormonal what's it called, hormonal replacement,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have to continue to do it, just like with a lot of these other medications. You have to continue, because when you come off, you will lose your hair. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to create a hormonal imbalance. Same thing with our men. So he didn't tell me that he was on a hormonal, he was doing the testosterone shots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you came off of them, so now it's created an imbalance. So hormones is not just about women. Men, it's
Mm-hmm.
for you too. So
Mm-hmm.
go make sure you get your hormones checked. All those things, you got to eat right. Of course, we know a lot of it can be hereditary, but guess what? Some of the hereditary is generational behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? Things that we're eating and we
Yep.
just been doing over time. We're not eating well, we're not doing well. And that's why it's showing up. So men, listen, eat right, take your supplements. Make sure you go get your hormones checked. Go low vitamin D, low iron, go get checked, because all of those things could be causing hair loss and you don't realize it. So men, don't be afraid to reach out for help. It, like I said again, it's just as much detrimental for you, and confidence and all those things, as it is for us. And so don't
Absolutely.
wait until now you got the George Jefferson going on, and you still trying to comb it over,
Mm-hmm.
or you got this little bit, and the barber, he keep on spraying that black stuff and clogging up your follicles, and
Mm-hmm.
now ain't nothing trying to come in because your follicles are clogged up because you using this black stuff,
Mm-hmm.
on your line.
Yeah,
So
that's a big one. That's a huge one right there. I mean, that's all you see the
right,
barbers do nowadays. I never even thought about that, you know?
right.
So that's a
It's a
good
big one.
point.
It's a big
Yeah,
deal for
yeah,
sure.
that's a good point. So, um, ending out, Cassandra says she uses the wash in the can only because I don't have full ability or mobility to reach my head due to health challenges. Um, and Cassandra, I can help you with that. I can help you with that.
Okay, good.
That's my girl there. That's my sister from church,
Yes.
and so yeah, I can help you with that. But again, thank
Yeah.
you for
Yes.
all of this knowledge. I feel like
So
we need to do this again
we do.
because it's just something that we really got to get the word out on. I think,
Right.
like I said, you, me, Tika, a lot of the stylists that service our women,
Yeah.
with all women. I'm not gonna just say us, but all women. We experience so much in our bodies, and we
Yeah.
experience so much in with our hair. And I think you hit a good point when you said that, with it starting in the gut, that if you're not giving your body everything it needs, it's only gonna go to the organs first, and then it doesn't get to our hair. So our hair is dried out, it's
Yeah.
changing, losing blood, changing all of those different things. So I thank you for saying that and for all the information that you shared today. And I want to thank everybody again for just popping in. I know it's football season, and
Right.
people got games to watch.
Go back and watch. Y'all can go back and watch the game. That's
Everybody
why it
got
ain't too
games
many
to
men on
watch.
here
You're
because
right.
they out watching the game. But y'all gonna have to share this
Right.
video with them
Share it with the
later
guys
because
because
they
they
gonna need it.
glued.
Yes.
They are glued. So again, hope that everybody will definitely sign up for this boot camp, because my girl is the business, y'all.
Oh,
So yeah. So we
oh,
would definitely do this again at some
for
point,
sure.
hopefully
We
before
will.
the year's out. But until then, thank you. Any closing remarks you want to make, my love?
I don't have any. Just y'all be well. That's all I got.
Just be well, which is
Just be well.
the other baby.
Yes, just be well, because that's where that's honestly where it starts,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
us just taking better care of ourselves.
yeah,
And I think that's where we are right now in the world. We don't do enough
yeah,
of just self-care and just making sure that we are well all the way around. And that's how we kind of end up in these spaces. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So everybody's saying good night
Good,
and thank
good night.
you.
Thank
And
you all.
you guys are welcome, and we will do this again.
We
And
will.
until then, boot camp, ebook,
Yes, I'll see y'all at the boot
101s.
camp.
Yes.
And I'll look to do y'all look out. I'm looking to do a virtual one too. I'm just not doing one right now. Y'all gotta give me a little time. For those of you that are not in the area, I would love to tour this. So if you get enough people,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
I'm coming to your city. But
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
then, I'll try to do what I can do. But thank y'all for watching, and y'all have a good evening.